Hey, what's up out there? It's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help agents like you succeed in selling insurance. And in today's video, I am specifically talking about the 7 things I wish I would have known when I first started selling Final Expense way back in the day, now that I do know and what I gained from experience. So I did a video like this probably a year or two ago. You can find it. It's the same stuff same title or something like that. Very similar. And I talked about a lot of the same elements that I'm going to talk about in this video, but I figured it'd be good to kind of update you because I'm at the point in my business where every year you're in insurance, and just like any kind of performance-based job or lifestyle, you learn from your mistakes, you grow from them, you see other people that you recruit, and you see what they do, and you try to better them. And so there's a lot of wisdom that you gain through this process of experience. So what I'm going to try to convey to you guys really is different aspects of what I have learned through my experience selling Final Expense that if you're a new guy or brand new, I would highly take this into consideration. I don't want you to be in a situation like what one guy I know describes selling insurance. Sometimes there are lessons that can't be taught to you, meaning that you have to learn them through screwing up or making mistakes. You want to avoid that as much as possible. A lot of the most successful people in life learn by the mistakes that others have made. And the purpose of this video is to hopefully provide some insight as to how you can overcome that as well and not make the same mistakes I did. So the way I'm going to organize this is basically based off of different setups and different organizations and different aspects of selling Final Expense, and kind of tell you what I started with and what I would have done differently, if anything at all. I might have actually been fine with it. But let's kind of get started here. So first on the list here, as far as marketing organization selection, I have it listed here as Final Expense IMO selection. What I mean by that, if you're brand new, is which agency you're going to work with, which organization you're going to partner with. I'm a big believer that if you work hard and are committed to excellence, you can make it anywhere. Even if you're captive, again, I highly recommend you don't do that, but you can still be successful really wherever you put your head in. The thing is, you got to burn the bridges. You got to burn the bridges. You got to jump in with both feet. You've got to be completely committed to this to the point where there are no other options available to you, that this is it. If you're going to succeed, it's swim or sink. And so in this business, starting off, I was glad with my first selection and who I started working with, because for me, the big thing is I wanted to work with an organization that trains, that I have access to, that can support me, and then provide me consistency and a level of leads. I got all that to start with. The one thing I wasn't aware of, and this caused me some problems, and it was a different market back then. There just wasn't as much agency competition as there is now, and my commission levels were never fully explained to me as the maximal of what they could be or what other agencies would recruit at. And I got to the point where I had to make a switch, and I did this several times because of the same circumstances, that my commission level was low. I was giving up a lot of commission for little value, especially as now an experienced agent after some time where I didn't need the kind of support. And I was never really fully explained, okay, here's your progression of your career. Here's what happens when you do this amount of production. Here's where your commission level will go. Here's what we'll expect from you in exchange. It was just kind of like, okay, this is what it is. But then you find out eventually that, hey, if you're writing a lot of business, you're giving up thousands of dollars, but hopefully for a good reason. But if there's no good reason, then you got to figure out another setup to maximize your take home. So it's a balancing act. You definitely need the training in the beginning. I was very happy with my selection, but eventually, sometimes you grow and you got to move beyond your kind of starting place if they don't accommodate for where you are in your career. So as far as looking back at what I would have done differently, it's really what I do on this channel. You know, I give a lot of information on what commission levels are, what they could be, what you get in exchange, and what you should look for in exchange for that. I've built my whole organization around that concept about total transparency. Look, a lot of people just want you to shoot them straight. Don't pull any punches. Don't confuse the ordeal. Make it a simple proposition and explain why it's beneficial, but be honest and transparent about what's good, maybe what's not necessarily the best for certain agents. And the more you get that, the better. Now, not everybody's going to do that recruits you. That's the other thing. So you got to be aware that, you got to do a little due diligence. So that's why I do these videos, so you can be better prepared wherever you are or wherever you're thinking about starting, and making sure you're getting the best overall package in your agency relationship. Point number 2 is final expense carrier selection. What would I have done differently? I think in the beginning, I really was happy with my selection in the beginning. I think it's really important if you're new to this channel and you're just getting started in final expense, really, or even life insurance, is to be an independent broker and carry multiple companies, but don't overwhelm yourself. You don't need to have like 20 companies. 2 or 3 is plenty. Get to know them, get comfortable with them, and then as time goes on, you'll begin to add more companies as things change, as you experience different people that don't quite fit the mold of the 2 or 3 that you have. You'll gain more, but then you'll be also more experienced. So it's an easier process to take on more companies over time as opposed to all up front, because it's totally overwhelming. You'll be motivated to some extent to try to know everything before you step out the door, and you don't know anything until you step out the door. That's kind of the paradox of this business. You just have to get over the fact that you're not going to know everything and just go out there and do it, and understand you have somebody under under your care or under their care that will help you. Like myself, I help my agents. They don't know everything when they go out in the field, but they know they can call me at any time and call up the bat phone and get David on the line to help them with pricing, underwriting, that kind of thing. So yeah, if I could do it all over again, the only thing I would do carrier difference would be the focus on carriers that have a point of sale interview as a new agent. I think that's really important. I would probably even go so far as saying to focus on potentially picking up companies with electronic applications. It's not exactly that easy. There's some good companies that I really like that don't have e-apps. And there's some companies that are okay that have them. But you could be sacrificing quality for convenience, and I'm always about quality first for the client and then convenience second for the agent. So most of the time. It's a fine line. But in this case, I would say definitely you want to use your main carrier as a point of sale carrier where you can do a phone interview, get a decision, yay or nay, before you leave. And then as a second bet, try to have a company that will do an e-app. The less going back and forth you can between the clients, the more you know that your policy is approved, the less amendment issues you have, the more success and more cash flow you're going to get in this business and extend your abilities to succeed. Point number 3, scaling the final expense business. Now this is kind of an interesting point about this business, is that in selling final expense, what the guy does that does 10 appointments a week is the same thing as the guy that does 30 or 40 appointments a week. I realized, it took me several years, I realized that the way to make the most money in selling final expense is not necessarily increasing your closing ratio 10% or up 10%, meaning from 20% to 30%. That does work. Or, to go from 50% appointment set to 65% appointment set per how many leads you get as a ratio. That definitely works too. It all contributes. But eventually what you realize, and this is true in baseball, this is true in sports, that you're in this, the longer you're in this business, or the longer you play a sport, you're going to have numbers, okay? And yes, you definitely want to work on improving those numbers over time. But the amazing thing about final expense is because it's a simple sales process, because it's a one-call close, because it's straightforward, it's really easy to scale this business up, to go from 10 appointments a week to 30 or even 40. I know guys that are doing that on a weekly basis. Yeah, it's a grind. Yeah, it's a hustle. Yeah, you got to work. But the thing is that guy that's doing 30 or 40 appointments a week is making 3 to 4 times as much as a guy that's doing 10. But he's not doing that much different as opposed to the selling, as opposed to the leads that he's using. It's not this some big, elaborate, different business. It's just a scaling up of the business, going from 20 leads a week to 60 to 80, even more, in order to support that. Now, you may need to hire an appointment setter, do some things. But my point is I think early on, I had these aspirations, and I still do, and I still have over time. It just didn't dawn on me I could just buy more leads. Possibly because it's scary making a big investment like that. But I would say to the new guy that's getting started that the exciting part of this business is if you want to make more than what you're making at once you get into 10, 15 appointments a week, you can. You can scale up higher. You can do triple the amount of work, I promise you. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's going to be, you're going to have weekends off or have 4-day work weeks. You're going to work a lot more. But if your motivation is to make a large income, that you can do that in final expense to a much larger degree. And all you really have to do is keep your numbers the same and double, triple your work effort to double to triple your income. And that's separate from your improving your closing ratios and whatnot. But it's in some sense, it's a more realistic to just do more than it is to entirely change everything. Because sometimes you'll do everything to change your metrics and improve, and you'll arrive at kind of a median point. And it's more realistic to do 2 to 3 times the amount of work than go from a 25% closing ratio to a 40% closing ratio. So that's why I mentioned that. Okay. Point number 4 is final expense lead selection. So yeah, this is really, really important. So you may not know my story real quick. About a year in, I started messing around with different kinds of leads to the point where I got off my old lead order and stopped doing those leads. And I banked on this new idea that was unproven. It worked kinda, but it ended up making me fail out of the business, or contributing to a large part of failing out of the business, because I got off of the fundamentals of what works. The great thing about final expense is not much has changed since I started in 2011 when it comes to lead generation. Now, some things have changed. So there's an overall larger saturation of agents in the market, meaning there's more marketing being done with direct mail. I think response rates have come down a little bit. We see direct mail pieces becoming more vanilla. They're not as specific as they used to be. And so there's not the level of specificity in leads like it used to be done. But beyond that, the essence of lead generation are the same. What you want to do to be successful in selling final expense is to use a business reply direct mailer card. That's where you send the lead cards out, they fill it out, and they return it back to the marketing organization or to you. And then you basically go run the lead, you set the appointment, or go stop by to see them. As long as you're doing something like that, then you're going to get some level of success. I like a more specific lead card if you can make it work for you. That's why we've got fixed price lead programs, but a less specific lead card will work too. You just got to work that much harder and kind of know the dynamics of working something like that versus a specific lead. But the important point is not to deviate away from that. I don't think the answer to the lead question today is telemarketed leads. I mean, that's not the solution at all. I don't think the solution to how do you get final expense leads in 2018 is Facebook leads. I think it's supplemental. I think they work, and I definitely can tell you people are getting good results with Facebook leads. But I don't think it takes the place of a solid, consistent weekly flow of direct mail leads. There's more of a place to supplement with Facebook leads for sure, but it doesn't take the place of what has been proven to work in a multitude of markets. So point being, had I known what I know today starting off, I would have never gotten off in a direct mail campaign. Would have never experimented with anything else. I would have never taken a chance on anything else. I would have just accepted that these goofy little cards that don't say much actually are incredibly powerful. And they work just fine if you'll just work the system. Point number 5, working my final expense book of business. Yeah, this is a big one. One thing I learned a couple years in is that these people buy insurance from you again and again. And as we'll talk about in a moment, you can also cross-sell other products too. The key thing here in working final expense, even though it's a one-call close, it's a simple product, it's more transactional than it is pure selling. It's definitely not like wage earning clerk transactional. There's selling involved. But it's not a hard sale or complicated sale. You kind of dismiss the fact that you can build a clientele off of these people. But you can. The great thing about this profession is that you need to go into this with the concept of you're going to create, every year hopefully sell several hundred people a policy, and over the course of 5 years have a book of 1,000 people. But after that first year in the business, you should absolutely positively be calling on these people to sell them more insurance, eventually to be cross-selling them, and to add on to their policy. One thing experienced agents will tell you is that half the people they sell already have insurance. And the question I ask is why in the situation would there be a situation where the agent that wrote the first policy isn't here to write the second one? A lot of it is because the agent fails out. And a lot of it is because the agent never follows up. And they're missing out on easy opportunities that with a quick phone call or a direct mail system to stimulate response to add more coverage could have handled. And these are easy sales. If people trust you, they already gave you all their personal information. Just go back and see them again. And I mean, I can give you so many examples of where this happened. I made thousands in commissions off of multiple deals just because I made a simple phone call or followed up or got a direct mail response back that I solicited for add-on coverage. And it was all because I just asked for it. And if you don't, somebody else is going to come by and they're going to sell it. I mean, we'd like to think these people are going to call us and they're going to refer naturally, automatically. They don't. You've got to stimulate that response. There is a sense of selling them to buy more because they get these response cards we talked about in the last section all the time. They'll just send that off the next time they want more coverage, not your stuff. So you got to stay on top of it, because point number 6 is that there's a big cross-selling opportunity in this business. And I decided about 2.5, 3 years in, I was going to recruit agents and build an insurance agency versus cross-sell. I think once you're well established, you're self-sufficient on final expense, I think a great direction to go is to begin to sell something like annuities or to begin to sell something like Medicare. One or the other is probably a good point to start with, to add a singular product in. I have an agent up in Wisconsin that is selling annuities. He's doing very, very well, making lots of commissions just off of his direct mail final expense leads off of annuities. I have had other agents that cross-sell Medicare Advantage or Medicare supplements when they run into it, and they make a consistent renewal stream from their already existing final expense business. It's there for the taking, especially the Medicare Advantage, Medicare supplement stuff, if you'll just simply ask for the business. You may have to come back and see them during annual enrollment period, which is when, if you don't know, Medicare is at the end of the year when everybody is allowed to switch out of their plans. But you create a pipeline, you can go back and sell these people. So there's a huge opportunity to see and sell more to the people that you already sold to, in addition to the leads that you're getting into. So this is one reason, again, to reinforce why you need to keep a clientele of business, meaning make them a clientele, not just a list of people that bought from you. Make relationships out of them, because it's just much easier and it's a much more fun business when you go back to friends that you sold business to. Point number 7, to kind of conclude here, I see that comment in there, pause, and I'll be happy to address it here at the end. Protecting myself from myself better. I think that at the end of the day, there is no competition in this business but yourself. Real competition. You're your own worst competition. The mind garbage between your ears is the biggest impediment to people's success. And it's not the next guy down the street. It's not the guy that's writing 150, 200,000 in your area that's got competitive premium. It's you. It's you, your mental game, and keeping yourself focused in this business. Look, this business is not complicated. It's simple, but it's not easy. And it's not easy because it is straight commission. You're out there, you're seeing people, you're getting rejected, you're getting doors slammed in your face, you're getting yelled at potentially. It doesn't happen all that often, but you're certainly definitely, like yesterday. I did a ride along with a new agent. We rode for, 3 hours before we had anybody actually answer a door to let us in. We did probably half dozen to dozen knocks. You know, and it's discouraging, right? I mean, it just is. It's going to be for anybody with any capacity to think. But you have to protect yourself from going down the rabbit holes of this is some con job business. It doesn't work. The people don't have money. They have too much money, or they're too poor, they're too rich, whatever. They got enough insurance. There is a definite need for this product, and you need to be definitely committed to this. Anybody who's trained agents know the biggest reason people fail out, besides not having the work ethic, well, really that is the biggest reason, but besides the leads, is the work ethic. They don't see the people. They get frustrated. They get discouraged. They stop prospecting. And then they start to create reasons in their own mind to justify their lack of work ethic, to explain why it just doesn't work for them. So, you know, look, I'm human too. I have these things too. There's nobody that doesn't have these doubts and points of frustration. Part of this business, what's great about it, is you begin to understand yourself better. You begin to understand your weaknesses and the things you need to do to control for your own mind. And some people are more sensitive to this than others. Some people have just iron minds. They're totally in control and they're fine. Other people are going to have ups and downs and swings emotionally. It's how this business is. You need to recognize that and understand it's just a phase. It's a short-term thing, and not to be succumbed to it. I know lots of really good agents that could have a potential to be really successful in this business that let the whole mindset get in the way of their success. And they otherwise would have great results if they could just control themselves better, if they could just do a better job of controlling themselves better and stick to the system, not deviate from it, and stick to things. So that's the basic overview of what I would do differently. And in summary here, before I answer some chat questions, stick with an IMO that's fully transparent, that gives you the best opportunity for upside commissions. Stick with a few carriers to begin with, Add more as necessary. Do not overwhelm yourself with a million carriers. Scale the business based off of appointment setting. I think, when I say appointment setting, presentations. I think the best way to maximize your income and the least resistance way is just to do more work. Buy more leads, see more people, and through that process, begin to refine your presentation, so therefore you refine your closing skills and all the different aspects to help elevate your overall production capacity. Stick to direct mail leads as your primary source of leads. Do not deviate. Do not try to think you're smarter than the system. I've tried, trust me, that's why I can tell you that. Just continue to direct mail leads. If you got to try something else, just supplement, don't replace direct mail final expense leads. Work your book of business, cross-sell your book of business, cross-sell your direct mail leads. But don't cross-sell, I forgot to mention this, don't cross-sell until you've done this at least for a year of solid activity. You got to prove yourself. You can write this on your own pen. You can survive. You're totally focused. If you get too generic, too general, and you spread out your interest in different products right away, you'll be diffused. And diffusion is a great way to fail. You want to be focused on one thing. And then once you prove through experience you can survive, then start to add on one product at a time. And then last but not least, keep your mindset in tune. Talk with other agents. Make sure that you're not letting yourself get the best of yourself. And remember, you're the worst competition, not the other guy down the street. So Pause and Think had a comment here I'll address. He says, I was really looking forward to start and was a little disheartened finding out that I need about $5 to $7 grand to start, but I also want to be successful, so I have to save for that. Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you want to do this on an independent basis where you're selling as an independent agent and you want to go out there and do this business like I teach, yes, you're going to need that kind of money. Now, you can do it for a little bit less, but having more is always a good thing because it just pads your pockets that much more. You got a nice bankroll. You can survive, a bad week or something if you have that in the beginning. A lot easier than if you had less. Now, there are some alternatives to that. I don't necessarily endorse them, but if you wanted to go this direction, you could. Lincoln Heritage, Senior Life, lots of other organizations, Old American, they will lead finance you. Now, there's lots of risks involved in that. You are basically just taking out a credit card, and you're obligated to the company if you do that. So you're going to be captive in most circumstances. But it is an alternative way to get started if you don't have the capital set aside to pay for your own lead campaign. Also, you could join a free lead organization. There's a lot of smaller organizations. There's a very big organization called One Life America. They have a free lead program. You do start at a very low commission, and probably would with some of these smaller agencies. But the thing is that is an alternative to coming up with your own money. I think the best way to do this business is have your own skin in the game. You'll take this business a lot more serious if your money's on the line. I don't know why that is. Maybe that's just the way it is. You're just more serious about anything that is risking your money. So I would look at that as another option as well. But truly, this business is going to be here, man. I mean, look, if it takes you 6 months to save up $5,000 or $7,000, you got to work on the weekends. You got to do extra jobs to stow away over time. Look, the same people are going to be there to sell to. The final expense business isn't going to be wrapped up and gone. It's going to be here. You may not be here, though, if you jump in too soon without adequate capital. So for me, I'm always kind of cautious or try to look for some kind of alternative solution. Maybe it's starting part-time, so you need less money, and then doing it on the weekends, and from the sales you make, start to build that cash flow or start to build that bankroll so that you can work into a full-time position. I did that when I started. So those are some options you got. Hope that helps, Pausing. AJ, how you doing? Do you ever use any government sites to get some leads for cold calling? I use the county's register of deeds for mortgage protection leads. Do you do anything like that for final expense? Yeah, great question. I think that's great for mortgage protection. That definitely works. That's what all, of course, as you know, mortgage protection direct mail leads are based off of, right? So why send them something when you could just show up, right? And you're probably the first guy in the door too. So for final expense, I've never seen anything like that. The closest you could get to it is an obituary page if you wanted to call on the family members of somebody who's just died. I mean, is that tacky or is that considerate? I mean, you answer that for yourself. But that's about the closest you're going to get to the kind of mindset someone's in when they buy an insurance policy. They just watch somebody die, and they're frightened at the expense and the emotional turmoil. I've always wondered, and it'd be great, man, if you could get a list of people who just started disability. That would be a great final expense list, because anybody who starts disability usually doesn't have life insurance, and they're much more prone to wanting it because they haven't had an income for a long time. So you'd have to work with a disability lawyer and see if they could work something out like that for you. I don't know if there's any laws or anything like that. Don't know. But you know what I'm saying. Like something like that would be powerful. But yeah, I mean, what we do in final expense is we just mail people generally mid-50s to mid-70s that are on the low-income strata of things. And, we cast a broad net. It's a completely different standpoint from mortgage protection, which is very specific, more powerful lead, I think, because you've got so much more data working with you. With that said, final expense leads typically are less expensive. Mortgage protection are a lot more. But it's a quality difference there. It's all in that list. And you're just not going to see that as often in a final expense situation. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. I hope this helped you out. If you'd like to learn more about the Final Expense Agent Mentor Program, if you'd like the idea or potential opportunity to work with my organization, go to Final Expense Agent Mentor. It's actually feagentmentor.com. Click the contact box and then send me a message. I'll be happy to give you some material on how my program works to better inform you as to whether or not this thing works and it could be right for you. You're welcome, AJ, or anytime, man. And if you got any questions or comments below, I like to answer them. Please leave comments. Please thumbs up the video if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. You guys take care. Peace.